I've been talking to him for 10 minutes.
Okay.
We will call this special meeting for Wednesday, April 9th, 2025 to order at 4 p.m. Ms. Olson, roll call, please.
Director Bankus? Here. Director Carey?
Here.
Director Hafley?
Here.
Director Jorgensen?
Present.
Director Malpacum?
Here.
Director Nelson?
Here.
Director Ott?
Here.
So we have 6 board members in person in the boardroom, and Director Art is joining us remotely. Please join me as we observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Adoption of the agenda. Director Hafley, can you please make the motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Hafley?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The agenda has been adopted as presented. We do have executive session for roughly 30 minutes this evening. Director Jorgensen, can you please make the motion to move into executive session?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education convenes into executive session to discuss negotiations per CRS 24-6-4024E, particular matter employment contracts and compensation.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Director Bankus?
Aye.
Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Hafley?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. We will move into executive session and rejoin the special meeting at around 4:30 roughly. Thank you. We are recording. Okay, good evening. Apologize for keeping you waiting a little longer than anticipated. Our executive session went a little longer downstairs. But we are back again, reconvening in public session. Earlier this afternoon, the board adopted the agenda as presented. We have returned from executive session and there is no need to modify the agenda. Pledge of Allegiance. May I please have Mr. Chip X to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we have several action items on the agenda this evening. The first one is a budget transfer, Phase 1 construction at Jenkins Middle School. Director Nelson, can you please make the motion for action item D1, budget transfer for Phase 1 construction at Jenkins Middle School?
I move that the Board of Education approves the Certificate of Participation COP funds transfer of $5 million for the initial phase of repairs to the Jenkins Middle School gym and media center.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Before we get into this item, I will turn to Superintendent Gall and we formal superintendent's report on the agenda, but if you can lead into this Jenkins conversation, provide an update to the community on where we stand with Jenkins.
Yeah, thank you, President Melpackham, and to our community. I have answered questions that come with the budget and the contract that's going to happen. That will come after I finish this update, but I wanted to set for folks where we are with Jenkins and where we're headed. This will be the crux of our conversation tomorrow night in our town hall, so if you're paying attention, please, if you're a 5th grade family interested in attending Jenkins next year, or a current 6th or 7th grade family at Jenkins this year, or just a generally interested community member, please join us tomorrow at 6:30 at Doherty in the cafeteria for a town hall. We are, first of all, very thankful again for the support that we've seen from our students, our staff, our families. The general community has really shown very strong wraparound supports to the challenges that come with having to dislocate a middle school in the middle of the school year. We are very proud to talk about the path forward, and we're excited about the path forward. We think it'll make for a better Jenkins in the future, and it's an exciting opportunity for our community. It is on, thank you. So how about you just say slide? Thank you. To remind folks that this is the timeline that we had committed to. Grayed out on the left are the reports. They are all published and available in totality for anyone that's interested in their review. In the first conversations with both the building inspectors and the fire department, the recommendations to partner with Jensen Hughes and also to bring in a geotechnical report for us to understand what's happening with the soils, and then our commitment through the design build RFP of our CRP Architects and Bryan Construction. So in summary, and you'll see some of the things that are happening starting immediately upon approval of budgetary transfer by the board tonight. In totality, we need to secure the one piling in the gymnasium. If you actually read the geotechnical report, it says that we're done settling in that side and you may or may not actually need to do a repair. We're going to use an abundance of caution and we will repair that piling called micro pilings, which is just how do we stabilize that corner to make sure that there is no condition in which it will slip any further. Included in that project will be some cosmetics to make sure that we do not continue to have cracks visible on the interior or the exterior of the building, because students and families and staff deserve to go in buildings that don't have cracks in them. Secondly, we will also begin immediately a more lengthy repair on the media center. And so those of you not familiar with the Jenkins layout, the gym is kind of a standalone wing that's a little further away from the challenges that we had with the creek, and the media center happens to be that intersection of where the main building touches what we've consistently referred to as the 7th and 8th grade wing, where the preponderance of challenges have presented themselves. The media center repair will begin immediately. That will require us to put in a structural foundation in that corner of the building to be able to ensure that that building is also then, that portion of the building is not subject to any change in fill or in shifting sands that come into the future. You'll also see that the next item that we'll do as we come to the end of our school year here is we're going to place 5 mobile classrooms in a yet-to-be-determined space on the campus in preparation for partial occupancy of August of 25. I'll get in a slide or two to the grades that are coming in there, but we will need a little bit of play. We do not have the actual classroom layouts decided upon yet. You'll see in a forthcoming slide as well that we will commit to coming back to the community in May to tell all of our staff exactly where they will be and our families to understand what does it mean to be back at Jenkins before all the construction is complete. You'll also see that this summer, our commitment right now to the community is we do not intend to repair the 7th and 8th grade wing. We intend to put that same amount of money towards new academic space on the south side of the building, which is kind of off where the 6th graders attended school on the first half of this year. We think that'll give us a concentration of where academics occur in the building with a very natural flow into the then repaired media center and then the visual performing arts and athletic spaces of the building. Next slide. Our operational plan, you've may have heard this before, we'll say it again. The plan is for incoming 6th graders and current 6th graders, which are next year's 7th graders, to be co-located in a partial occupancy status of Jenkins Middle School. And our 8th graders, who are currently 7th graders from Jenkins at Doherty, will remain and finish their 8th grade year at Doherty. This will do a couple of things for us. It will, in totality, complete the vision that says our elementary schools matriculate to Jenkins Middle School in the northeast side of town. So if you are at our primary matriculation schools of Martinez, at Scott, at Freedom, at Fremont, those are our 4 largest choice schools into Jenkins. If you're a 5th grade family, you are intending to go to Jenkins next year. The experience will not be much different than it would have been before. We actually have an abundance of space available in that area of what we have called the 6th grade wing for us to be able to fit 6th and 7th grade by placing those 5 mobile classrooms on the space. I know that a mobile classroom does not make families excited, but please come to Jenkins and give us a chance to show you that being a part of Jenkins, even during a construction phase, is the right choice for your kid. We will bifurcate that construction. It will be completely isolated. Those areas will not be tied together until the summer of 26, so you won't have to worry about your kid walking over plaster falling out of the walls or things like that. We will continue to isolate that. And again, if you're worried about our ability to operationalize, please just drive by and watch what we've done at Jenkins in dislocating to Russell and Doherty over the course of the last couple of months. And I use the transportation hub as a perfect example. It hums, it runs. We handle the challenges that happen on windy days and rainy days and cold days, and kids feel supported and families are being supported as well. I do want to add that we are working in partnership with Bryant Construction and CPR Architects, who are now our fronts to both the Pikes Peak Region Building Department and the Fire Department, for us to get a life safety plan on the record so people can investigate and make sure that the money that we're putting in allows first for partial occupancy starting in August of 25, and then secondly, for ribbon cutting and complete reopening of a new academic space at Jenkins Middle School the following summer. So we are continuing that strong partnership, and we appreciate the early communication to make sure that everybody understands what are the things that have to happen. You open up new academic space, there are new code requirements that are different. We do this for a living. We've done this before. Later on this evening in our work session, we'll be talking about our Palmer rebuild. We have built buildings before in District 11. Our local contractors, our local architects, our fire department, our building code, we know how to make sure that we cross those T's and dot those I's. Next slide. Just for those who aren't familiar with the layout of the building, the green area is generally what the Jensen Hughes and the geotechnical report have come to say there is not a risk here. We do still have to get a passive fire protection plan passed for that green area to be deemed safe. That application has been placed this week. That is under review. We do not anticipate that being a problem. But you can see now the new academic space that we intend to design build will now extend what I'll just say south or off the bottom of that green area where you see all the D101s through 130s. So that will be an extension off that 6th grade wing. You can see the other parts of the building in totality that are included in the shall be and should be safe to occupy again in August include the majority of the other functions of the school. So we just really felt that it was important that after 20 years of seeing cracks and measuring cracks, that we don't tell the community that we just mud-jacked and kind of airbrushed over the cracks. Well, this is a school board and a school district that wants to do right by its community, which means we're going to add new academic space to ensure that we're no longer unsure of whether or not an area is deemed safe, because safety is critical for our students, our staff, and our families. Next slide. For those of you who are currently work at Doherty or are worried that have a student that goes to Doherty, this will free a little bit of the pressure in that one wing by only having 8th graders next year at Doherty. They'll be able to give some of that space back to the Doherty staff, and for those paying attention, that's mostly the math department. So shout out to our math teachers that have been on mobile carts at Doherty this year to support our Doherty students, and a real shout out to the Jenkins staff who's been at Doherty and has fit a 7th and 8th grade wing in there. So that'll be just 8th graders. I know that, again, does not sound ideal, but one of the things that we wanted to measure was the limitation of change for children. Those 8th graders next year that you see on this slide are currently at Doherty, and they're thriving. They're getting access to high-quality high school spaces, particularly for the visual and performing arts. They're practicing in spaces that they've never seen before, which is an exciting time for them. The final bullet on here that's important is for next year, what we will do is for all clubs and sports activities that are Jenkins-based, we will go get those kids that are left at Doherty and we will bring them back. Because remember, we'll have full visual and performing arts and we'll have a fully functional auditorium. So that will be a slight change for how Doherty has operated this year a little bit, because we've been doing some like crazy AM practices for Jenkins basketball and things. So this again should ease some burden and simplify. It's really important for us that our students are managing change, the least amount of change possible, because we know that these are very formidable years for them, and we appreciate the strength that they've built with their own cohorts and how Jaguars have become a little bit of Raiders over at their time at Russell, and Jaguars have taken on a little bit of a Spartan flair as well at Doherty. Next slide. Again, I've covered this a little bit before. The contractor plan assures safety and commitment to conducive environments for learning. We again will commit to there'll be no access for the Doherty students into the places where Jenkins students are being taught at Doherty, so we will continue to keep that safety. And this idea that, again, we are certainly talking about months in advance and years in advance. All of these plans have to go through normal protocols. Like any building that is built, there are inspections, there are processes. We are abiding by all of them. We will make sure we meet all of those requirements and be above and beyond that, because it is that important for us to get this right. We have a school accountability committee on the 14th of May at Russell. If you're a parent that wants more information and you can't attend tomorrow night, we'll be covering this there again at that school accountability committee. Next slide, if there is one. And yes. Again, tomorrow night, please join us at Doherty. We will not be in the auditorium. They are practicing, what's the play that they're getting ready to do? Anybody? The Doherty Drama Department is in the final throes of their rehearsals. So we will be just short of that in what we call the cafeteria area. We'll have a stage so you can see and hear us, and we'll have a drop-down screen for slides to be there. We will, next slide. We will break you all up. Is there not a next slide? Thanks. Oh, okay. Go back to the next one. Let me finish this thought. For the folks that are going to join us tomorrow, we'll cover the general information in the front, and then we're going to break you out by grade level into different parts of the building, and we're going to create a facilitated interactive conversation where you can be telling us what you want to see in the new academic space and how you want to see that Jenkins experience be for your child, whether you're an incoming 6th grader or a 7th grader or then an 8th grader returning the year after that. Go back because I think I missed one. I think I said this earlier, all activities and athletics will be back at Jenkins for next year. And transportation, we'll be working some of these final items for you as we get these details. The transportation hub will probably get a lot smaller because we'll only be moving 8th graders that can't get to Doherty on their own from the Jenkins parking lot. But we will provide families that solution, that if you have multiple children that go to Jenkins, just drop them off at Jenkins, we'll get them to Doherty and we'll get them back. We've been doing that this year, and that's a real silent shout out to the staff members that man that the transportation hub twice a day, every day, rain, sleet, snow, or shine. Okay. I think that's where I am. I want to field any questions from the board before we get into the contract request.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that update. And just for the community as well, even though we have reiterated this previously, and I want to say this again, even though all of us have been aware of some of the issues with Jenkins Middle School, we budgeted it for future action, and this came up in soon after the holidays, and since that point in time, there has been a lot of quick action, but deliberate, intentional action to get to this stage when multiple city entities are involved and trying to move the needle through all those various entities. It's not an easy task. And getting to this stage in a couple of months' time, 2 or 3 months' time, where we can come back to the community and provide a clear plan as to what school is going to look like in Jenkins when school reopens for the next school year in August. That took a lot of time and effort and a lot of meetings that took place. So now we have clarity as to what it's going to look like for Jenkins for the next school year. Board members, questions, comments? Director Nelson.
I have been hearing from fellow parents in that community, and one of the questions that they had was if their 6th grader attends Jenkins in the fall, is there potential that they would then have to go on to Russell or Doherty for the ongoing years? And just the answer to that is no. Once you start in 6th grade at Jenkins, we anticipate all of this construction will be completed so that 6th graders will be able to have their full middle school experience all 3 years in that Jenkins building. So if that is playing into your decision, thought you would like to know.
And you did receive notice of the meeting as a 5th grade parent at Martinez? Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions from the board at this
I
time.
do have a note from Director Ott. Thank you as our visual and performing arts connoisseur. It is the Little Mermaid that is being rehearsed at Doherty. So if you are done with our town hall tomorrow night, maybe sneak in the door and get a sneak peek of what's happening there.
So again, to the community, the town hall is tomorrow at 6, and have any, please do come to the town hall to listen to the update that will be shared. Your questions or concerns at that time. With that, we do have an action item on the floor at this time with a motion, which has been seconded, and I'll come
Dr.
to
Comfort?
you, Dr. Comfort, to
And team?
talk about that item.
Okay, good evening, Board. I won't add a ton on top of what Superintendent Gallery said. I do want to quickly acknowledge Mr. Colin Lead with Bryan Construction. Oh, there he is right there. He is here, so just for your awareness. Real quick, Phase 1 funding allocation. A lot of this is already what we talked about. We're basically funding two components tonight with this budget transfer. One is the work that will happen in the gym. The second is the work that needs to happen in the media center, as well as design efforts related to feasibility. This is a map you already saw. And so you'll kind of see, basically, we're going to fund about $6.5 million total. We already have some allocated. I do want to speak to, when Director Nelson read the motion, it said that this is from the COP. I do want to provide clarity. This is not from the Palmer portion of our COP. You will hear that presentation tonight. I'm excited for that. There's two reasons we're using that funding. Number one, it is the most accessible to us in this moment in time. And number two, it allows the remainder of our capital projects that are funded by the remainder of the capital budget to stay on track for now. We will see what the total Jenkins project requires, but we don't want to go and start canceling projects when we don't have to. And so that's why we're using that current undesignated part of the certificate of participation. And with that, I would turn it over for any questions.
Okay, questions?
Just to reiterate, this is only the gym corner and the media center foundation, just so people understand when they see that number and then they see the much larger number to make an investment in new academic space.
So
That's
this will
correct.
come,
This will be multiple asks to the
Multiple
board
asks from
as
the
those
board.
plans become available.
Yep.
But because of the timing, we need to get started as soon as possible to ensure that we can get all our ducks in a row for partial occupancy in August.
That is correct, and I will speak to that when we do the contract modification part, but all of Brian Construction and CRP, I always want to say CPR, CRP's plans are timed with board approval for this money tonight, so they can go get on track and on schedule. We will be continuing to bring budget requests as we know more about the totality of the project, and I will describe those each time when we bring them.
okay. Questions or comments at this time? Director Nelson.
As we go forward and you're continuing to receive information from the capital team and construction team, I just want to have a sense of how this is going to go. Are you going to present like, here's the $10 million option and here's a $30 million option? I'm not saying those are the numbers, I'm just using an example. Or do you already have kind of a sense of what we're looking at and recognizing like is it going to cost almost as much to just do a repair rather than a rebuild, that sort of thing? Do you already have a pulse on
Yeah,
that?
so I tried to embed that in there. We weren't quite ready for renderings yet, but the basic premise is the time and the cost of a repair is too close to the time and the cost of a new space for us to really spend much time on trying to repair, which again, really as a district, we've been on our heels on how could it go this long. You go down to the 8th grade space. I mean, literally varmints were crawling in the corner of that furthest space down there because there was a couple inch gap. It's better for our community, for us, to align our strategies towards that new space. Now, we will come back to the board with different options of how to configure that space, but we will be somewhat limited by this is the amount of money that is available for this, that is consistent with the expectation of the size and the growth plans that we have for Jenkins Middle School.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
So the plan is right now for that 7th and 8th grade wing, more a replace as opposed to rebuild in a new location. That's what Superintendent Gall was talking about, the south side of that building.
That's correct. Let's get ourselves away from the area that we've been geotechnically explaining and fill and settle and rain rates. Let's put ourselves in a spot. And for those familiar with the area, slight diversion on traffic for where that parking lot is, but nothing that we think will influence the way parents access the building from the back neighborhood or the places that staff park. It's, again, trying to minimize the impact, but really, it's an opportunity for us to show an investment to the northeast side of town that says, we do believe in the future of Jenkins. We do believe in growth and opportunity in this part of the city. And don't just repair a building to a 25-year-old standard. Let's now build a building and a space inside that building that moves us forward for the next 25 and 50 years.
So I also want to point out to the community that all this is based on the analysis that were done over the last couple of months, the geotechnical analysis that were done and studies that were conducted out there, and the solutions that are being proposed are engineering sound as far as engineering wise goes. Even the addressing the fixing of the gym and the media center. Okay, I don't see any other questions at this time, so roll call, please, on this motion, which, just as a reminder, the motion is for to move $5 million from the COP funds, transfer that to the initial phase of repairs for the Jenkins Middle School gym and media center.
Director Bankus?
Aye.
Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Haysley?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Van Patten?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion that was on the floor was approved. The second item, it goes along with the previous one. Director Bankus, can you please make the motion for action item D2, the contract modification for design build restoration services at Jenkins Middle School?
I move that the Board of Education approves contract modification C 2025-1011-02 for the gymnasium and media center repairs at Jenkins Middle School with a total modification amount of $5,441,757. The period of performance will begin on April 10, 2025, with an estimated completion date of December 23, 2025.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. I'm going to directly go to Dr. Mumford. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I enjoy my procurement team, so if there are any technical questions, I will defer to them. Pretty simple. It may seem unique that you're doing a contract modification of an original contract that you didn't approve. Remember, the original contract was for the feasibility work with Bryan Construction and CRP. Now we're in a place where the dollar amount passes what we can do without board approval, so we're seeking board approval. And because this is a design build, typically when we do a CMGC project, we would bring you the budget for the design, and then the design would happen, and then eventually we would talk about the project. Because of the board's request for urgency and timeliness, we are doing design build, which means we are bringing this to you in pieces. And so this is the first phase and first piece. And so that's the first modification to the contract that we're seeking.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarity also, when you look at the period of performance, it starts tomorrow and the completion date is December 23rd, 2025. And that is the gym, it is anticipated will be completed by July, end of July, beginning of August. So when schools reopen, the media center could take a little bit longer and can go into the fall. And the completion date for the media center is tentatively now December 23rd, 2025.
That's correct. Yes, we do anticipate the gym will be ready for use when students return. The media center will take some additional time. Obviously, all of those safety and security measures will be in place, but it might take until the end of first semester for the media center, which is why the period of performance.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Director Bankus?
Aye.
Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Haysley?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Van Patten?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it, the contract modification was approved by the board. Moving, and thank you for people from Bryan Construction and CRP. If you were here in the audience, I think Colin Lead was here, so thank you for being here. Contract awards. This is the charter school renewal contract with Community Prep School. Director Carey, can you please make the motion for action item D3, the contract award for Community Prep High School?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education approves Resolution 2025-22, thus approving contract C 2026-0002 to renew Community Prep High School's contract as a district authorized charter school. The contract performance period will start July 1st, 2025, with a 5-year term ending June 30th, 2030, subject to any earned contract extensions through the annual performance report process in accordance with policy LBD.
Second.
Moved and seconded, Superintendent Call. The board approved the renewal application for Community Prep High School during a special meeting that was held on January 15th. And new information regarding this contract itself.
We have no new information. I believe Raj is here, though,
Yep,
from
Mr. Solanki
Community
is
Prep.
here.
Okay.
No
Good to see you.
information.
Board, do you have, could you turn this off, Melissa, so I can ask the board? Turn all the, yeah, thank you. Board, do you have any questions about the contract that is attached to board docs? I don't see any, so roll call, please.
Director Bacus?
Aye.
Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Neely?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Malpaca?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Congratulations to the principal who's in the audience. The board has approved the contract award for Community Prep School for another 5-year term. Best wishes for you, sir. Make sure that I know there were some questions about the enrollment at that school. I'm sure you are working really hard to ensure that the enrollment and the finances for the school are moving in the right direction along with the academics as well. Thank you for being here. Same thing, item number 4 is the charter school renewal contract with Eastlake High School. Director Hafley, can you please make the motion for action item D4?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education approves Resolution 2025-23, thus approving contract C 2026-0001 to renew Eastlake High School's contract as a district-authorized charter school. The contract performance period will start July 1st, 2025, with a 5-year term ending June 30th, 2030, subject to any earned contract extensions through the annual performance report process in accordance with policy LBD.
Second.
Moved and seconded. The same thing that I shared with the previous charter school applies for this. Any new information? Dr.
No new information.
Okay. Any questions on this contract, board? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Director Bacus?
Aye.
Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Beasley?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Malpaca?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and again, congratulations to Eastlake High School. The contract renewal, the board has renewed your contract for a 5-year term, and best wishes for you as well. We are at the end of our action items, so seeing no further business, if there are no objections, this meeting will adjourn at 5:51 p.m. So we'll take a 5-minute break and start our work session at approximately 6 o'clock out there. Thank you.
No. The charge is changed. We have to come to the board.
It's a couple, so like, we just-
It's 6 o'clock. And we are at the work session. We have a couple of items on the work session agenda. Guys, you can join this conversation, but we have something else on the agenda first. So you can be part of the conversation if you want, but it doesn't involve Tom.
We need committee members.
Okay, so we're waiting for Jill to, Director Haefley to join us. The first item on the agenda is the mill levy override governance policy. I'm going to give a little bit of context and then turn it over to Director Nelson. She brought this request to the board. So it is my understanding that, and Chipex is also, Mr. Chipex is also joining us. And he is the chair of the mill levy override oversight committee. So thank you for joining us. So the mill levy override oversight committee has a governance plan, and the request was that since that is overall governance, it should be more captured in terms of a policy as opposed to being a governance plan, and then there is some this way there is clarity as to once it's a policy, then the board owns it. And it's my understanding your committee looked at this policy that was proposed, and you guys discussed it, and there is approval from your committee at this time. Okay, with that context provided, I'll turn it over to Tricia Nelson if you want to give any update. The policy that was proposed, if you can pull that up.
Red line or regular?
Not the red line, the clean version.
Still trying to read the red line.
So the red line version was the original governance plan, and what the clean version is the policy that is being proposed, brought forth by Tricia Nelson. Go ahead.
So on March 18th, we brought this policy to the MLO committee, and they gave their approval to move it along for the board to review. How this came about, the committee has been working on drafting their own bylaws, and we also in that process came to realize that the governance plan was very outdated. It still stated, for example, that Dr. Gluttage was the superintendent, and so there was just conversation around who's responsible for updating this document. The committee did not feel comfortable that it was their place, and as I thought through that this is a governing document, that should be the board. The board's role is to govern over the district, and we do that through policy. So my ask is for the board to consider shifting this governance plan document over into policy rather than how it's been living for years as a separate document that floats tied to a committee. And the information that is in here, some of what I've added, I went through the original ballot questions and the original spend plan, which the ballot questions reference in, they reference a spend plan in the question itself, the election question. And I just made sure to compile like all of the requirements that were in the election questions, that were in the original spend plan, and let's get them all in one place. So that's sort of my second reason for pursuing this, is that it will be easier to move forward as we have turnover in staff and committee members, that you don't have to go hunt down information by looking at several different documents. All of the relevant information of how the MLO dollars are to be governed are now in one place. So I have asked Mr. X to join and help speak to sort of the rationalization of this conversation. And first, I just would maybe ask you to give a little history on your experience on the committee.
Sure. I was on the original district audit committee. And then they brought in what the remnants were of the Mill Levy 2000 committee. Like 3 people came in and obviously made the committee much larger. But the problem that happened with the 2000 MLO with their spending plan, which is right here, was attached to the ballot question. So when the Mill Levy 2000 got approved, the spending plan became part of the requirement. Okay, so it wasn't a governance plan, it was a spending plan. Along the line then, in 2017, when the next mill levy was passed, they joined the monies together and they came up with a governance plan. The governance plan, the reason it caused confusion with the committee was the governance plan had things in it that the administration was required to do, not the committee. So, for example, program improvement plans, PIPs as they're known, right? Those are really created by the administration, comes through the committee to the board approves them, and that's how that little block of money that is set aside for that particular program will be spent. The committee every year reviews those to make sure, the eyes and ears of the board, as we like to say, to make sure that the money is being spent in accordance with the plan, which is in accordance with the mill levy election question. So when I took over as the chair, I said, well, what direction do we have from the board as to how this committee should operate? And they came up with the governance plan, and if you look at that 2017 governance plan, you'll see that they have policy injected inside a plan that's really directed for the superintendent on what he or she is responsible for to make sure that the program improvement plans, the PIPs, are actually done and get approved through the committee to the board. Every year we annually should come and present to the board a report of what we did for the last year. I don't know when the last time that was done, but the last I saw was 2021 and 2022 that year. So we asked originally that this be redone to be a policy of some kind, because we belong directly, like the DAC, we belong directly to the board. And we needed a policy so that we could then build our bylaws underneath that and so on how the committee actually operates. You know, how many times can you miss a meeting and all those kinds of things. So that's why, and then in discussion with Director Nelson, she said, you know, I think this should be a board policy. And when we drafted it together basically and came back and the committee approved it, that this should be a policy, not a governance plan. If the district needs a governance plan on how they're gonna govern those PIPs, that's fine, but that too would have to come through to get approved and reviewed by the board. But there's really no reason to do that because the program improvement plans are already set, they're already done, and they've been in existence, one from the 2000 mill levy for 25 years. And for the people out there that don't understand the mill levy, once it passed, that money comes in every single year. So there's 26 million, and Brandon can, Dr. Copeland.
26,998,822.
Yeah, and 42 million, 42 plus million in.
Closer to 50.
Yeah, I know, but I'm gonna finish. Started at that, but it has an inflation additive every year for that mill levy override. The 2000 one does not, so it's the same amount every single year. And as things change, for example, all-day kindergarten. Okay, well, the state came in and said we're gonna fund all-day kindergarten, but that was one of the ballot questions from the 2000 mill levy. So then it comes to a plan amendment, which then goes through another process to get the board, it's a supermajority approval for the Board of Education to approve it. So that's where we stand, and that's the draft that came out of it. And my own personal experience with the district, it started when this young man was in high school. So I have a pretty good feel for what, especially the mill levies.
Appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Anything more?
Yeah, I'll just, Melissa, can you pull up that list of the PIPs so that people can get a sense of what, when we refer to PIPs, this is what we're talking about. It's the specific items or categories that the voters approved for this funding to be spent on specifically. Now, as Mr. X mentioned, there is an amendment process, and that amendment process is in this policy, and it looks very much the same as it did from when it was established in the year 2000. So if you just want to review, we cover staff development. There are positions, specific positions, LRTs or TLCs, so our coaches in our schools or our librarians, for example, some of our counselors. We have, adjustments for helping to reduce class sizes. And so just to give an idea that when the voters approved this, they voted on specific reasons. There was to reduce bond debt, and the district currently has no more bond debt. So we made an amendment at that time to now funnel money into a reserve pot that we can use towards the needs of the district. And that went through the amendment process. So I think initially to move this conversation forward, I just want to establish whether or not the board is in agreement that a policy makes sense, or if there is a different way you want to go about giving this committee the guardrails based on ballot questions. And if you are comfortable switching from a governance plan to now a governance policy. And I think if we can just establish whether you approve of that, then we can move the conversation forward. So I don't know if you want to take thumbs or what.
Yeah.
Or if you have questions.
Julie, Director Art, you had sent an email to the board proposing, if I understand right, if I remember your email, something a little different. Do you want to talk about what you proposed to the board before I call for thumbs?
On this topic?
Sure.
Yeah, she sent an email.
Yes, thank you. Sorry I can't be with you tonight. When I read this proposed policy, and it starts out with saying that we're supporting the ballot questions, which I don't think is the case. This policy will govern the Citizens Oversight Committee to monitor the funds. To me, that makes this about the committee and about how the committee works. It's not about the overall plan. And so, as you all hopefully know, I sent you an alternative plan. Listening tonight and with further conversation with President Walpacum, my understanding is different now from what it was when I sent it to you, and you understanding more thoroughly that you want to adopt the whole plan. I think that's perhaps a worthy idea, but if we do that, I want to have a chance to really dig into this policy a little bit more and bring back some of what is left out of the plan itself that I think makes sense. So, Thank you.
So I think what I understand from you and the conversation that you referred to, what you proposed to the board was to keep the governance plan as is and then have an additional policy as well. The clarity that I provided to you was that the proposal that was coming from Director Nelson and the MLO was this policy takes the place of the governance plan. Okay, so that was, and so your feedback is based on that.
Can I respond?
Yeah.
I also, in the original email I sent to the board, sort of giving context, when I think about that, sometimes we as a board have to create policy because of what happens at the state level with statute or legislation. The election the voters mandated specific things take place in regards to this funding. And so it's not so much about the committee, it's about making sure that what the voters approved to monitor the use of these funds is actually happening. So I sort of see this as like the law of the land in D11 that the voters approved through these MLO election questions and the spend plans that were tied to them.
Okay, so
And hold on, and so, Director Ott, given what you just said, how is it different from what you're proposing?
My focus was much greater on the committee and saying, here's how the committee works. And it references back to the plan. So what I think, if I understand more correctly now, Director Nelson is proposing we move the whole plan over. And my only objection to doing that is that, to me, this policy would need work. I think it reads as a committee, a policy about the committee more than the plan. And there are things left out of this as a policy that I think we should include.
Good.
Which we can dig into, or if you all would be okay, if you're okay with making this a policy, maybe Director Nelson and I can sit down and go over some of that and come back with some edits.
okay, so Jason.
What is it missing, Director Ott, that you feel needs to be added?
Well, I mean, we can.
Sorry.
So I think what Director Ott is talking about is that first we'll decide if by terms the board wants to move the governance plan into a policy. And once we have agreement on that and the will of the board is to move it to policy, then we talk about the language of the policy itself. And that may be better, like what Director Ott proposed, that Director Ott and Director Nelson, if you are good with that, you talk and figure that out and then come with a proposal adopting both your, whatever it is.
Absolutely, I sent this out well in advance so that there could be that communication and moving it along. And I did, even though it was challenging, I used the original, the last approved governance plan and modified it. So if you're feeling as though things are missing, I didn't really delete like substantive, is that word again? Things out of it. I more tried to just clean up the language and bring it to that higher level, that 30,000 foot level that the board is trying to do with all of our policy work. And I did also go back to our old version of our BDF policy where we had the MLO mentioned in that document. I don't know if you guys remember this, but that was repetitive of what's in the governance plan. So again, if you see that there are things that are missing, definitely let me know. But I did try to keep it as consistent with what the overall intention was of the documents from 2000 document to the 2017 document.
Okay, go ahead, Director Ott.
Thank you. So there is a section called Overview of Plan in the original, and there's a section called District Comprehensive Performance Plan, and that has all been removed. And I realized that you took parts of it and moved it elsewhere, and that's fine. I personally would reorder some of the plan. The other part that I think we need to work out is we are annually looking at like the directives. We have to conduct the independent review every 3 years with that third-party auditor, but we're going to annually report to the public the findings of the independent review. And that is language that's in there now, and it doesn't make sense. So I don't know that we need to repeat the stuff that doesn't make sense. Because why would you annually report something that comes every 3 years? And just some of the language can be shortened up. I personally got really tired of reading the Citizens Oversight Committee. We could just call it the committee. And
So how
Let's
about
see.
this? How about, because I was thinking about this, I have a few things like that I'm like, oh, I use the same word twice in this sentence. If the board is comfortable with just letting us do the wordsmithing and then coming back to you, if I initially tried to keep it as much in line with what the original documents were conveying and some of that phrasing, like still using some of it. But if you guys are comfortable with us like really making this more succinct and throwing it in AI to help us even, like, hey, make this sentence more succinct or this paragraph. I would totally be comfortable with doing that instead of us wordsmithing tonight.
Okay. I still see your hand raised up, Director Ott.
Yes, thank you. I agree that maybe we can make it more succinct, but there are two objections I do have to this version that I would like to address. One is that, I'm gonna have to try and find this now. I believe it's the second sentence. I'm looking at the red line version so I can see my notes. The Citizens Oversight Committee provides transparency, accountability, and will ensure expenditures support the board priorities. That is not the purpose. That's new language, and it changes what this committee does. So that's one concern I have that is significant. Another is that the original governance language had, I'm looking, well, let's see. There was supposed to be, you said shall include a member of the district accountability committee, and I appreciate that. It doesn't say how many, so we might want to address if that's a minimum of one. I do think we could bring in a little bit more of BDF where we have to reference BDF, the policy about our committees. And let's see, under the amendments to the plan, the District Accountability Committee reference has been removed. So this is actually a problem we have. We don't have the original document, clean document to look at. We don't have the original governance plan posted on board docs. So if anybody wants to find it, they have to go to our mill levy overriding page. But amendments to address changing circumstances, it no longer references that the DAC also has a say, which is part of the original governance.
So let's talk about what the feedback was with removing the DAC from the amendment process.
Can I start with the other stuff that
Sure.
she, so regarding the Board of Education priorities language, the original spend plan uses the language of to support the Board of Education adopted vision and mission statements and the goal statements associated with the vision and mission. So we just have been using the language priorities. If we want to go back to vision and mission, like, okay, that's okay. We can do that. But I think the sentiment is there, that it's all regarding the direction the Board of Education is wanting to take the district. And then I apologize. I realized this morning that we should have uploaded like the ballot questions themselves. And like you said, that governance document. I was thinking about this more in terms of it's a policy conversation. I didn't really think through that actually we need to take a step backwards and do some ground laying of just what is the MLO and where is this all coming from. So I apologize that documentation wasn't already on board docs, and we'll make sure and get it uploaded for when this comes as non-action. But then to your question about the DAC member, we had the conversation with the committee that why does one committee need to go to another committee to get approval of a change, of an amendment to how we're spending money, when the purpose of the MLO committee is to oversee how it is spent. And so we had that conversation with the Mill Levy Override Committee, and they were, it was a majority agreed that, yeah, it doesn't make sense that one committee now has to go approve what another committee is doing. And, but then They did make that request to, in the composition of the committee, add that there be a DAC member present on the committee, so that there is some overlap. In the sense that what is happening in the whole district, that should be communicated by the chief resource officer to the committee. If they are bringing an amendment request, then it is his job to explain the general fund budget, what is happening in that, and then now how the MLO dollars could, impact or not impact that change. So things aren't happening in a silo. The MLO, just because they're focused on the MLO dollars, it doesn't mean they're not gonna get that information of the rest of the budget and what's occurring in the rest of the budget. So, does that answer your questions?
Okay, Director Art, do you have any response back at this time? Otherwise, I can propose a path forward.
Well, it comes back to, I think we need to review the parts that are left out a little bit more significantly and have that deeper conversation. I understand the vision and mission side of things, but that tends to stay with us longer term than board turnover every 2 years. And so the current board saying, this is our priority, it can seem, I imagine, to a committee that we're sort of moving in different directions every 2 years, possibly. So the priorities might seem like they're changing, when the reality is the vision and mission are greater, and what the voters supported is more specific, I would say. So I think we might want to go back toward that original language. Again, I want to look at the overview plan
Okay, so.
and such.
Okay, thank you. So proposing a path forward, first, by a show of thumbs from the board, is the board comfortable moving the governance plan to policy? Replacing the governance plan to policy, and Director Art, I can see your thing. It's a thumbs up. Okay, great, from you. Okay, great. So we have agreement on it. So the second thing would be the policy itself. If the board is comfortable tasking Director Nelson and Director Art to work on the language, wordsmithing it, moving things around, and compare this to the governance plan and policy PDF, and if language needs to be pulled into it, if you can bring a new version which incorporates where you can find alignment. Now, if there is going to be some areas, a sentence or two, like where you said you possibly disagree, then propose those two different sentences, and then the board can, at that point in time, just figure out how to proceed as far as those specific sentences. Instead of us trying to wordsmith it right now, I'm just proposing that you guys wordsmith it, where you find alignment, agree on it, and if there is disagreement anywhere, bring that to the board at that point in time. Does that sound like a good, by show of thumbs, do you have
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Before it comes back to the board, it should be reviewed by the committee.
Yeah,
Oh, good point.
please do, yeah, please do. And
Because the
do you,
Go ahead.
do you have a meeting in April?
No, yeah, we have a meeting Tuesday.
Okay. This
Coming
next week,
next week.
okay, and then do you have a meeting in May?
Yep.
Okay, so maybe this can be reviewed in May and we still have time before it comes back to the board. Or if you think you can, how many committee members are there, by the way?
Well, that's another question, but right now we just had Jerry Carney left, and so there's like four or five, I think, kind of thing.
5 or 6.
Yeah, 5 or 6 right now.
So if you want to join the committee, we'll take you. We need people on the MLO committee.
Okay.
They help to make sure that we're spending the money how it's supposed to be spent, and that
And they're
it's
all
gonna help
community-
kids.
Community and parents. Community members and
Taxpayers,
parents.
we need taxpayers in the district, which I actually modified some of that language already in here.
Okay, so you heard the mill levy oversight committee needs new members. So if board members, you know somebody in your circles that would be interested in volunteering that time, they meet once a month. If Director Art, is the board comfortable that Director Art and Director Nelson, by show of thumbs, are you guys good? Good, okay. Directive from the board is that Director Art and Director Nelson work on this, come up with a acceptable language, wordsmithing this proposal that came from you and Director Art, the modified policy she proposed, and then take it to your committee if it's possible. If it's possible to take it in May, or maybe they can provide feedback.
As soon as you can get it to us, we will send it out and do an email vote.
Perfect. That's good. Okay.
Are you all comfortable with sort of establishing that this is the draft we're working from, and that going forward, I will bring you a new red line of this?
Yep.
Or do you want to still have the red line of the 2017 governance plan that I originally worked off of?
I think the new version is good, but if you need to pull back some language from the governance plan, because of Director Art's suggestion, you can pull some language into this document from the governance plan or policy PDF, whatever might be necessary, or reference to.
Is it Malpaco?
Yeah.
Since I would say Director Nelson, I don't disagree with everything you've put in there and with whatever the work the committee's done. But I think it will be simpler for people if there's not redlining of redline version. If we just adapt the new, from the original, if that would work. I mean, maybe we can work that out between us if it doesn't matter, hopefully.
I'm asking the board if they're comfortable with now saying, we're gonna work off of this draft and redline it.
The clean version that is on the board docs right now.
Yeah.
And then redlining.
But it's not that assumes that this is, I don't want to say good enough, but it assumes a lot. It doesn't allow for the original language. We're putting stuff back in, and then people are going to wonder where it came from. So I just assume start from the beginning.
But I already did that, and you've had your chance to, that's why we're here. So
Yes.
So I think we could attach in board docs the original, the 2000 spend plan, and then the 2017 version. And then, otherwise, I think it would be very confusing to continue to redline what I've already redlined.
That's what I've said, yeah. So I agree with you.
But I think
All right,
you're
sorry,
saying-
Director Bankus.
Director Bankus.
I would agree that the work that's been presented to us tonight is a working document. And then what Director Nelson had just added to that is, I would also like to have the reference material that you're talking about so I can go back and look at it. And so when we finish this discussion, the question I'm walking out with is it really, when you talk about mission and goals and vision, and you balance that or contrast it to board priorities, which one has the longer lasting? I know that mission, goals, and vision have been educational ease for as long as most of us have been in education. I think when we have our board priorities, whether it's this board or the next board coming through, it gives a very specific vision, goal, and mission that we're all about. But it puts it into language that says, this is where our focus is, where I look at the other three as being much more nebular. And so that's what I'm wrestling with as I walk out. I do think that using the work that's already gone through the committee, having an opportunity to go back to original documents if I find that necessary. And I don't know, after you two work together, are you going to bring back an email for us to say, this is where we are, this is what we did, or maybe bring it to the meeting itself so that we have time to do our own due diligence and look through it to see if it carries over the intent of what we're asking, not only from the committee, but what we've asked and what the voters have have trusted us to accomplish through voting for a successful MLO. So my vote is, you guys work on this, send us something in advance, reference the original documents so that if we want to go back, we can go back, and then we'll bring it back to a work session to discuss.
That was my question. Does it come back to a work session
Oh,
again, or can it come as non-action? What are you all comfortable with?
Yeah. So we can come to that. The
Yes,
work has
go to the
already been
committee.
done from the feedback. The work has been done, and I also want to be making it clear the board is not right now settling on the clean version that has been proposed out there. And that is essentially, the board is in agreement with the language that is in there. The board is open to both of you working together in revising that document, bringing in language from the governance plan if necessary, if both of you agree on. If there is disagreement, then bring that to the board at a later point in time. Okay, and
Through
then
the committee.
yeah, through the committee, after the committee. What I would suggest to you as far as that work session, or whether this comes as non-action, let me know at a certain point in time how far apart both of you are.
Okay.
If this needs to
More
be more
conversation.
of a conversation, if this is going to be a simple
Yeah.
one thing that the board has to decide, maybe we can do
Okay.
that from the board dais,
Sounds good.
as opposed to a work session.
Should I say one more thing? When we do an amendment, it comes up through Dr. Comfort, and the amendment is run against those, right over there, the Board of Education priorities. And if the amendment doesn't fit into those priorities, then there's a real big discussion, right? So that's why we use that, because the ballot questions are set. So if you have to change one because it's no longer educationally sufficient or valid, that is allowed to do by the election questions themselves. And so then the question the committee has is, okay, Dr. Comfort, which one of those does that really affect? And then he's able to tell us that. And then we either say yay or we don't recommend approval. And it goes to you guys and you decide. It's a super majority vote, so.
Okay, so, yeah,
Just for my clarity's sake, did the MLO OC already approve this clean version?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
thank you. Okay, so we have a path forward with that. We will table this conversation until it's ready to come back again in front of the board at a later point.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank the committee.
We'll talk.
Did I get your turn now?
I'm following you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, now we need the rest of the Palmer,
All the honorary Palmer terrors.
Palmer Terrors.
and we also have a couple of
I don't think
people,
we've earned that yet.
I see.
Oh, I don't know.
We're trying. We're trying to earn it. Krista, can't you jump in?
Mark, I'd love for you to join the front table here. Krista, join the front table.
All right. Seat at the table.
Okay. Okay, with that, we are moving on to the next agenda item, which is the Palmer High School Master Plan update. Looks like there are some renderings. We also have Omar and Gabriella joining us remotely. But first, I will turn it over to Superintendent Gall to provide some context.
I couldn't be more excited by the work of this group and every extension of this group. There's not enough room in this building for the number of people that we have worked with and that have provided input to provide you that hopefully that is the last picture of the current layout of Palmer High School that we will ever see. We have a lot of information to share with you. It has been tested, it has been vetted, it has been rooted, it has been informed, it has changed because we want to make sure that we are meeting the vision of what Palmer should be delivering for our community for the next 100 years. As you go through these slides, I ask you to have two different halves of your brains. For the engineers in there, you will see schematics and you will see phase 1 and very specific construction terms, and then you will see renderings that will excite the other half of your brain. So find the piece that works for you, but see the totality of really the work that we have prepared here. That we could not be more excited to present this update with you. And I'm going to pass over to Dr. Wise because she has really run most of this work for us to then introduce our partners.
Thank you so much for seeing us again and hearing where we are in this Palmer project. It's been a year of a journey, but we're incredibly proud of where we are today. And I really just want to start, my top line is just thank you to the entire Palmer community who's been part of this so far. To staff, Krista, to you and your entire staff for making this so enjoyable to work on, for being part of it, to our students for being so vocal and involved, to our community partners, our neighbors around Palmer High School. This project is only where it is today because we've had over 30,000 touch points of community feedback. There's no way we would have gotten to this master plan without this input. This is driven by the Palmer community, and it's been a really authentic, engaging process, and it's something that makes us incredibly proud of where we are. And when we can present something to the student council and there's nothing but smiles and excitement, that feels great. So a huge thank you to the entire community who's been part of this, and we're excited to hear your feedback this evening. So without further ado, the usual suspects, Doug Abernathy with RTA Architecture, Chris Meek with Adolphson and Peterson, our contractor, and then joining us online are Omar Calderon with Perkins Eastman and Gabriela Bermeo with Perkins Eastman, who've been helping us with both the engagement and the design. So,
You should acknowledge one of our steering committee members here.
Well, shout out to the Capital team, Jen Hotelling and Hannah White, who have been a huge part of this and will continue to be. And then Mr. Tom Hess in the audience, who is a steering committee member and as well as has helped shepherd this design. So, Doug, all you?
All right, well, we're gonna go over this at a high level, but we'll talk a little bit about the engineering side, as Superintendent Gall talked about, and some of the phasing associated with the project. And then we'll touch a little bit on budget at this point. We'll give you some design updates with Omar and Gabby. We'll talk a little bit with overall schedule with Chris here with Adolphson and Peterson, and of course we'll open it up for questions for the group. So just a little bit of a recap of what has happened here in April and also what's going to happen in May. So we've been meeting with this steering committee. We actually have a steering committee meeting here in a couple of weeks. We're also going to do a community open house on that night. So after the steering committee meeting, we'll have a community open house and we'll report out what we're going to share with you tonight, but also additional information that the team is working on. We also have user group meetings. User group meetings are specific meetings with the teachers, the staff of the building that will happen on the 23rd and 24th. We've been meeting with Krista and Matt at the building regularly here every week for the last 3 weeks. We'll continue those meetings. April 14th, we'll come to the board for approval of the master plan, May 14th, the official approval of the master plan. And then we've just recently established a groundbreaking date of May 12th that we're really excited to share with the community. Part of that request was actually Jess and I were at the Future of Palmer committee meeting on Friday, and the seniors asked if we could do that before they left and their last day of class. And so that was driving some of the decision for when that date will be for the groundbreaking on May 12th. And then, as you know, we are moving towards construction starting this summer, and we'll hit on some of that phasing as we move through this.
Before you move away from the
Yes.
slide,
Sorry.
we now have a fixed date. The community open house is going to be April 22nd.
Correct.
Okay, so that's April 22nd, and May 12th is going to be the groundbreaking.
Yes,
That's
we'll
correct.
get all of those in your inboxes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Communication team is working on that. Multi-pronged. So design updates.
Yeah. Oh, still you.
Oh, still me, all right. So just a recap where we are with first phase. So first phase is focused on academics, as we've talked with the community, with the steering committee. And so the yellow item that you see there is the 3 to 4 story academic building on the east side of the building. That will be the first phase of construction. Then the renovation of the 1939 building, and then some minor work in the 68 building, just to enable this work that's the reshuffling of staff in the building as we move through. We're showing a concept here just as a placeholder of Boulder Street. Don't think that that's the final design, but it shows the unified campus through this phase of the construction. As we move to phase 1B, that is really part of that next phase of the master plan, the full master plan implementation is really focused on unifying the campus, providing the track and field, and then also potentially a field building, but you can see the impact of the field on the site. We lose the 1968 building. We also lose the auxiliary gymnasium as we move through this process. So just a little
And the potential, oh no, never mind.
question. So are you all right? Good, all right. So just a little bit about phasing that we've been working closely with Adolphson and Peterson on. Abatement and demolition of the tech building starts at the end of the school year. So school gets out, there's a day after Memorial Day where staff is still there. Right after that, we would start abatement and then demolition of the building. Once that's done, we will immediately start construction here later this fall of the 3-story academic wing. As we move through that process, the academic wing will take us till the end of next year. So think of December of 26 when the academic wing would be occupied by students and staff. Next summer, though, as we're moving through this process, we'll actually have to do some early enabling work that we would call next summer between school years of abatement and demolition in the 1939 building. We're working closely with Krista and her staff. There's an interim move process that's going to go on next summer. So everybody will get to participate in this, and yeah, and we'll move some folks around in order to continue construction. As we move through that, then we would move after we complete the academic edition. We'll move into the renovation of the 1939 building, which Omar and Gabby are going to talk about. We would finish that construction in January of 27, and so another year later. And then at the end of that, we would really talk about the demolition of the 1968 building and the renovation of the auditorium. So we need to do this in sequence. We have 1,200 students on site. We need to be mindful of that as we move through the building, and we improve safety and security, but we also protect students and staff during the construction of this project. Brandon's favorite slide.
Run up.
This is your moment. No one's gonna take it from you.
Yeah, exactly.
Distracted.
We're gonna sit here quietly.
We're on schedule and on budget.
So we've been working closely as a team as we've developed this master plan to look closely at the first phase of this project and to right size that to fit within the budget that has been established. This is the rough order of magnitude. It covers all the scope that's identified up there. The total project budget is $100 million. At this early phase in the process, to be just under our total project budget is a good thing. That means it allows us to deal with the unknowns that we're certainly going to be faced with, whether it be utilities or other things in the building. It also gives us some freedom as we move through this early phase of the design to really prioritize things and make sure that we have the right things in the building to make sure that we can deliver a high quality instructional space for Krista and her team.
So this money includes the design?
Correct. This includes everything, and so it's direct cost of construction and all of the other things related to it. So we just summarized it and just put it all together for you. Gives us flexibility as well.
Market went back up today, so it's better today.
Yeah.
This is a
No
question.
tariff yet.
That's exactly right. Superintendent Gall hit it on the head. One of the things that we continue to have to monitor is tariffs. There's money that is built into the budget with Chris and his team to deal with tariffs, but we don't know where that's going. That changes every day. And so there's still some flexibility in our budget to take care of those things as we move forward. Onto the
Excellent. My
other side
turn.
of your
Yeah.
brain.
And Sorry, were you still going?
No, go ahead.
Can I go? Okay, excellent. It's a pleasure to be with you all today, even though it's virtual, to walk through these images. And I would say that we are on schedule and on budget, and we have not really diminished, what we're hoping to achieve, which is a great place to learn, right? And a place that is everything that the IB program, has to offer. These are a couple of really great images, and we have a whole series of them showing the building as it was originally designed and delivered and what it looks like today. And one of the things that we were really curious about is the student experience, the entry as it was designed. And if you look at these very carefully, you'll notice that there's actually some doors that no longer exist in the image on the right that were original to the existing structure. If we go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about what that means. And really that building was actually designed to be a civic building in community. So there was a dedicated entrance for the students, which is marked in red. And you see the arrows there pointing through the entry there, leading to the corridors. And then an entrance to the auditorium marked in blue, which was meant for the community to have access to the theater in the after hours. And we know this because the architect and some of the builders responsible for the building gave us that evidence, which you see there on the left-hand side. And this idea, this image of the civic building not only works during the day, but also you see the image on the left at night, building lit up from the inside, where the glass block really becomes a very significant feature of this building. And you can see there the doors on the left. So before there were front 9, we had the front 15. And this is something that we're actually leveraging, restoring that sequence so that we can leverage some of the things that we want to do in the interior. Now, before we go away from this image, I want you to put in your memory bank the admin suite of spaces that you see there, which is partitioned into a series of little offices and little corridors. Just keep that image in the back of your mind as you see some of the images that we're about to show you, but the transformation of the entry experience. The other thing that we have done is thinking about the campus walk and the absorption of Boulder into the campus to connect the north and the south sides of the campus. And during phase 1, by the time phase 1 is complete, we want that experience to look as complete as we can deliver it. So there will be a campus walk that precludes cars from traveling, although as a matter of practical measure, there is a emergency access that is still drivable surface through campus walk in the case of if we have an emergency that emergency vehicles can still access the site. You'll also notice 2 plazas, one on the Nevada side, which is very modest, but then an entry plaza, a major entry plaza on the Weber side, which is going to align with a new secondary entrance into the building, as you'll see in some of the later slides. So we're really trying to adjust the site and design it for student movement and to give the students the choice of movement through not only how they arrive at school, but also through the plaza as well. We've allocated a zone where we can relocate the Eagle Memorial and of course the Bell, and then also have some green spaces that can enhance the student experience. You'll also notice the curved path that cuts across the site that will be part of phase 1, and more on that later. We're also thinking about furniture that is modular, that can be relocated, right? Knowing that this phase 1 might be a temporary condition that exists between phases 1 and 2. These are elements, site elements that can be moved and placed in a new location. So that way the investment that we make in phase 1, we can carry it with us, for the longevity of the school. So when we walk around the Weber side of the school, the new entry from Weber and Boulder to our right-hand side here is marked by this 2-story entry of the 3-story building. And you see that we are using a coloration that is meant to be sympathetic with the existing 1939 building, but we didn't want this entrance to compete with the magnitude of the main entrance on Nevada, right? So this is a secondary entrance that we perhaps be more for daily use. You're getting dropped off by your parents or you ride by car. This would be the entrance that you would use. To the right, we have a plaza that I described in the previous sketch that provides the students a place to gather before and after school that is away from the cars, away from Weber, and just provides another kind of enclave for our students and families to gather. If we were to then go to the next slide and turn around the corner a little bit. Oh, we're going to this side. You see that, oh, that's okay.
It's kind of fussy, Omar, so bear with me for a second.
Okay. All right, we can stay here. So as we turn around the building, you'll see that there's some elements that should be familiar to all of us by now. And one of the things that we learned from looking at the 1939 building for all this time is that it was teaching us how to turn the corner, right? And so you see the emergence of the curve, this very modest curve that's actually leading us around the building and kind of leading us into the courtyard and revealing the view of the Front Range beyond those trees. And go to the next slide. If we were now to walk in the other direction towards the 1939 building along Weber, you'll see that this is an urban building, right? And we've been always talking about Palmer as our downtown school. And what does that mean? Well, one of the things that it means is that it's an urban building, part of the urban fabric. However, we've done a few things to better harmonize the new building with the existing. You'll see that at the corner on the right-hand side, the building is has that three-story mass of red that then steps down to 2. And we think that relationship of stepping down these masses has a better chance at harmonizing with the existing building, which would be slightly smaller in stature. Then you can go to the next slide. And so then the story on the opposite side of the new wing, now looking from the courtyard side, it's a little bit different. The building really opens up. And I like to think of this side of the building as having one major picture window whose sole purpose is to really do 2 things: to capture this majestic view of the Front Range and connect all of the learning that's taking place inside with this beautiful place that the school sits in, but also connect with the courtyard in a very direct way. You see that at the ground level, there's a little bit more transparency and glazing, allowing for some of those activities to be both physically and visually connected to the quad, as I'm calling it. You also see this curved path, which is part of the design that is being implemented in phase 1 that allows us to then proceed with phase 2 and the acceptance of that, the curvature of the track. A little place for students to sit. So you see a few steps, very modest steps where students can gather, and that those steps follow the curvature of the track from where you can perhaps enjoy viewing your friends, run around a few times. There's a few other things that are going to be happening in the quad. We talked about the Eagle, we talked about the Bell, and there's also some stormwater management features that we're integrating into all of this as well. And then at the end of phase 1, this is sort of like a bird's eye view, or the eagle's view, if you will, showing the promenade being created on Boulder, the path, the curved path into the quad, some placeholders for the Eagle Memorial, the Bell, and then of course the new wing, and you can appreciate the big picture window that is allowing both daylight and views and a great deal of connectivity into the courtyard. But then recognizing that there's going to be a future where there's going to be a phase 2, right? And so here's the same view showing the track and how that integrates into the design that's being laid out as part of phase 1. Now we want to talk a little bit about the interior. I'm really excited about this, and I asked you to keep in the back of your mind that image of the ground floor with the admin suite with all the little spaces. The transformative power here of just removing a few walls to get more access to daylight. So this is, you're standing in what is now the lobby, or what used to be the lobby for the theater. The theater would be to your right. The front 9 is directly to your left. And in the center is the main stair. And you can see that from this vantage point, we have access to daylight and views in both directions, which is going to be transformative. Also helped by the fact that we're removing a few parts of the second floor to create this vertical dimension to the space. And that actually has both the effect of adding more daylight to the space, but also creating a greater level of connectivity, both horizontally and vertically through the school, which is something that we are missing today. If you go to the next image, this is another vantage point of the same space. We have now transformed the administration wing into an open area where the commons are being housed. So this is the place where the students would get nutrition during lunch, but it's also a place that transforms throughout the day to have other purposes and uses that are academic in nature. This is where students can come and gather in groups or individually and do some of their own self-directed learning. On the second floor, go back.
Sorry.
On the second floor is the library. And as we all know, the library plays a critical central role in IB education as a source of inquiry and a place of study. And so we're giving it, again, a central role, a central figure in this plan that coincides with the commons below. So this, all in all, is conspiring to become the heart of the school. And you see in the background there in the image, we have this idea for no more lockers on the walls, but instead of lockers, we have books. And so lining the walls with books and creating these really wonderful bookshelves around the space. If you go to the next image, you'll see standing now on the second floor, looking at one of the stairs that connects to the new wing on the right-hand side. So this is a place where the new wing meets the 1939 building. And you can see that that transition is seamless by just the surgical elimination of a few walls to create this level of connectivity. And then the stair, which takes us to another level of the library where perhaps there's other kinds of spaces there for private and individual study. And through that corner window that you see in the foreground, in the background there on the right-hand side, we would get this panoramic view of both not only the mountains, but also the quad and the northern part of the site north of Boulder. Now, if you were a student that's entering from the other entrance that I showed you from Weber, this is the space that you come into, and you'll see that there's a lot of similarities between this space here and the previous one on the Nevada site, and that is both horizontally connected and vertically connected as well. The big window on the left is looking into the courtyard, but also the front range beyond. And from here, once you enter into the space, you see a lot of what the school has to offer, right? And so there's the evidence that learning is taking place is palpable and visible to everyone as you walk through the space. And then another view of the same space, now looking through that big window and showing the disposition of spaces and how we're thinking about furniture to create a variety of seating arrangements in places for students to gather, and connectivity between some of the learning spaces and the corridor. Always thinking about corridors being more than just corridors, but really extensions of what's happening behind the walls. And I'll hand it over back to my colleagues.
Any questions so far? Keep going.
Let's finish it and then we can open it.
Yeah, so just a little bit about, we talked about schedule. Right now, we're gonna start abatement and construction in June, completion of the project. Substantial completion of the project will be in the end of 2027 to meet the 85% requirement for the COPs. There's still gonna be some miscellaneous things. It's hard to plant trees in February, and so some of that work will happen in March and in the spring, and so that's why we show the March of 28 completion. And I think that's it for the team.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything you want to add, Superintendent Call, before?
I just really appreciate the patience of the community and the thoroughness of all those involved for us to see this realization of a vision. This is a vision that changes the vector of District 11 and its relationship with its downtown community. This becomes a destination high school for the Front Range, of which we have the right academic leader and the right team in place in the building to be able to deliver on that. This is a multi-year project in several phases. This is phase one. Let's go big, let's go bold. And we know that there are changes that will happen over time. But let's not stray from all the smiles that I see around the table right now and the extensions that I see in the audience of, I believe that anyone who's had any concern of not honoring and not delivering on a vision should be super excited about what they're seeing here this evening.
Okay. With that, we open it up for questions. So from looking at the schedule, this phase one, we can expect it to be completed by the summer of 2027 for most part, so that for August of 2027, that building, for most part, other than you talked about some of the vegetation or whatever it is.
In the fall of 27, there's probably still some work going on in the auditorium and some miscellaneous things going on in the 1939 building. But for the academic portion of it, for staff, all of that scope will be pretty much complete.
Okay. Director Hafley.
Are you getting rid of all the glass blocks, or are you gonna put any of those in there?
No, we're actually gonna restore a lot of the glass block in the 1939 building at the front 15. And so we're gonna restore that portion of the building, and then through the research of the design team, we found other locations where we've seen some of that. And so there's actually some of it in the design process that we're gonna integrate into the new academic wing as an homage to some of that 39 building. They still make the same glass block. Christine in our office has researched it. They still make the same glass block that was in the 1939 building.
That's awesome. And then did I see that the library is all open concept, or does it have walls at all?
There's a portion of it in the modern media center library. There's small group rooms, there's work for concentrated work for individual students. There's ability for teachers to interact with students in small group. So there'll be a mix of spaces in the library. But as Omar said, it's really an homage to that sort of inquiry-based educational model that we want to see.
Yeah, so two comments that I can make on that is that originally the library was on the second floor of that wing, and so we're kind of going back, to that same idea. I think that the atmosphere that we are pursuing is one that maybe can be characterized more as collegiate, right? So you enter this library and it should really feel like a library that you might find at a university, really.
So then those student projects that Anton always did in the library, the kids were presenting.
The whole school walks by it every time they pass classes. It's gonna be awesome.
It's interesting, so meeting with the Future of Palmer Committee and talking with them, is they talk a lot about going to Tut Library at CC and liking to go to some of those spaces that are over there at Tut. Whether they're small group or individual, or like Omar described, the view of the Front Range that you can get. It's interesting how over the course of the last 6 months, we continue to hear that come through our conversations with students.
And I said the library design has largely been driven by student voice and steering committee. So we have 3 students on the steering committee who have given really constructive feedback about what they think will be most productive for Palmer students. And so open but with small group concentrated spaces was their request.
Okay, Director Jason.
The front 15 entry, we're not going to be able to see that cool change until 2027 though, after
Correct.
phase 1.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that one there. That's neat.
That was my question. So phase 1 is B and A, in that little, both of those are considered phase 1?
B is really the athletic wing that you see in the master plan.
Right.
The academic wing where the tech building is right now is really phase 1A.
Yeah, that's the tech wing right there.
Correct. And then the second phase in that diagram was really where Adolphson and Peterson comes in after the academic wing is done and starts to do work in the 39. So that would be Go
Go back to the
back
red
to the
square,
first-
the
yeah.
red square ones tell it really well.
Yeah,
Oh, wait, you gotta go way back.
way to the front.
Way
Sorry,
back.
to keep everybody up to speed.
No, it's okay.
Okay, right, that's probably the
Maybe,
best place,
yeah,
right
maybe
there.
the yellow, yeah, there.
Yeah, so the one on your left is really the tech building and the demolition and the construction of the academic wing. When
And
we
that's
s-
phase one.
And that's phase one.
Part of phase one, these are all phase one
These
that
are
we're gonna
all
see right
phase
here.
one. That's what's
Phase
confusing
one,
about
let's
it.
say one point one.
Okay.
1.2 would really be, and we don't show it going into the front nine, but where we show that red object sort of reaching through, it would reach down to the front nine in that, so it'd be U-shaped, so we would reach down and grab the front nine or front 15.
What you don't see in the right-hand slide is the thing that says complete academic wing on top of it. It's in white, but you gotta demo the tech wing, build the academic wing, and start reaching into the 39 building. All of that is phase one.
Okay.
The phase 1B that you saw was when you turn the courtyard, which is kind of a grassy area over Boulder, into the track and field.
Okay.
Moving the track and field up. And then and that is still different monies, not significant. Now, if you go to the AB one that you saw before, part of the master plan will be, and then how do we eventually bring Earps Field up into that space? And you can see it kind of,
And that would be like a bond.
yeah, you can see it would be up just on top of the academic one. So from the 50-yard line to the other goal line, so to
But
speak.
everything you presented tonight is covered in the funding that we've already secured. Okay.
Yeah, so focus on the 39 building and the academic edition, and the courtyard, as Omar described, the courtyard work that we'll do in the first phase.
And to be clear, the feedback from the community was, yes, we want athletics and activities as a part of Palmer, as part of our community, but we wanted to focus on the academics, restoring and providing a true academic experience into the next century while we go through funding mechanisms to then bring the complete nature of the athletics. And so I really want to give credit where credit is due to Ms. Hotelling for having that vision that said, wait a second, if you slide a couple of things around, you can actually bring the track and the field right onto the campus. Now, we saw that when we were in Washington, and the students have resoundingly said they love that idea. We have 3 of our 4 high schools all have their own track and fields that kids are playing and practicing on every day. We still have use for Gary Berry, we will continue to do that. But know that students right now on the track team at Palmer do their practices at Gary Berry. Now they can do their practices, not now, but in that phaseology. They can do this right downtown. And Dr. Wise has been working on other partnerships in our community who also see great advantage to having, we call it a CHASA sanctioned and approved track, but a real, 400-meter track and a real pitch indoor football field that we can have in the center of our downtown.
So what happens to Earps Field, and where's the basketball court gonna be? Is that staying where it's at?
Yeah, so until more monies are identified at another $60 to $80 million to how do you build a new gymnasium and auditorium, that would be that B. Go forward to where the B is. Way forward, you gotta go way forward. We should have done these closer. And that's the true phase 2 of what the board would be thinking about in a master plan. No, all this is.
So you got it right here, Doug. Yeah, that key plan.
The key plan, the B is
The
the
Jill on the
athletic.
left. That's all new Earps Field, new swimming, new weights, new all things that currently happen between Earps and the northern lot and the Aux Gym.
So what happens to that land down there? And
If you remember, the iteration was we would put a full CHASA baseball and softball field on that space. So,
And tennis courts.
and tennis courts, thank you. If we didn't put the tennis courts on top of B.
Exactly.
That was also another option.
Which is also,
Oh,
yeah.
that would be cool too.
Or just pickleball for people that we want to see.
Get their own space.
That is all a later point of conversation when we secure additional funding at a later point in time. It's a conversation that the board has to have at some point in time. What are the opportunities for additional funding? Any further questions
I have two questions. Just, you mentioned lockers at one point, so that just now has me wondering, are we not gonna have lockers anymore? And then wondering about square footage wise and number of classrooms, and just, can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, we've been working very closely with the staff. This is a 21st century building. We are not building, remember the current layout says it supports 2,500 kids, we have 1,200 kids there. We're building to the 1,200 to 1,300 student capacity using all current educational adequacy studies to be able to do it. And we're not putting lockers, they take up space. There are other ways for children to be able to secure the goods that they bring in, and many of the things that we do are digital going forward. I cannot think of new buildings in America that are built with lockers as a good use of space. That will require some adjustment in how we currently operate, but we have the operational know-how and skills to be able to deliver on that. And of all the feedback we've gotten from the alumni, lockers was not the greatest concern, but we do think that the future of the building is lockerless.
What was the concern? What was the greatest concern?
The greatest concern was really losing the front nine, and really what it meant that Palmer has stood for generations as, even though there have been modifications and additions, as that same centerpiece. And really I appreciate Omar and the team highlighting that diagonal entrance that was a through line all the way through our city at one point, and really paying homage to that and that original design. So that postmodern architecture is still the thing that you see when you come around the corner. So that doesn't change. And then the extension that we put on academically becomes complementary to that in a way that you don't have these mixes and matches. And the comment that we made, the irony we said before, is you'll be able to move throughout the whole building from the inside of the building. You don't have to go outside to get to the extension like you currently have to do.
But you'll want to.
But you'll want, well, yeah, well, you can still crisscross, yeah.
Second question?
Oh, that was
So
it,
the-
the
those
lockers
two.
in the classroom.
I see Director Art. Director Art.
Thank you. My question is, as I look at those gigantic windows, and that's beautiful and great, because looking at the natural beauty that we have access to here in Colorado Springs is important. But I do worry about, hot air rises, cold air sinks, environmental
Yes.
aspects and energy efficiency, and especially if that's a western facing window and you have that sun beating down, what is that going to do to our air conditioning costs? Because we're sure hoping we're going to have air conditioning in here. Can you address that energy efficiency aspect? Thanks.
Yeah, Director Ott, you put your finger on something that's been just keeping our minds preoccupied for a long time. The decision of putting this building with the long axes in the north-south direction, right? It's dictated by the land that we have, available land, and the facing and other things, right? And so we have to deal with that. And so the end results, we have a lot of learning spaces that are facing east and west. Now, we need to balance that now with the glazing, the amount of glazing, but also the shading mechanisms that we can put on the outside to limit the amount of glare that's coming into the classroom. So this is going to be particularly important in the morning hours on the east side and in the afternoon hours on the west side. It's a little hard to see in this image, but if you look closely, when you have a chance to look at these more in detail, you'll see that there is a kind of a screen-like element that's covering this entire facade that is meant to be a perforated metal panel that allows you to see through, right? It doesn't limit your view, but it cuts down on the solar gains that are coming into into that side of the building. Again, this is another thing that we need to strike the balance, right? And do not only the daylight analysis, but also the energy analysis associated with it. So you put your finger on something that it's in front of our minds, and we're going to continue to analyze it to find the right balance. Hopefully that helps you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Doug, is there a standard for all new buildings at LEED levels of silver, gold, platinum? Is there anything you can add for the state of
So
Colorado?
we've had, Omar, we're working with the team right now. We actually can model any day of the year, any time of the day with the software we use. We've actually run some early analysis already to maximize daylighting, because daylighting improves learning. right? Connection outside gives you a respite for your brain so you can refocus. And so those connections outside are really important for you. And so we're already running that analysis to meet that criteria like you talked about, like a lead criteria. So typically it's about 40% of the wall area, and we get an appropriate amount of daylight. And then as Omar said, we're working very hard from a design solution standpoint to limit the glare and the heat gain so that we don't have those issues.
Yeah, and so just, I want to get it on the record because we get these types of questions all the time. This is a fully conditioned educational space for hot days and cold days, and the spaces that you will touch will be fully ADA compliant.
And they will be fully tuned so that we can reduce the energy used, the glare disruption, and the heat gain like Omar described.
Yeah.
And the design team is working hard on that right now.
So there's going to be some energy modeling that we're going to be doing to fine tune that as well.
So think of this, these are still concepts that we continue to work on. The final building won't look exactly like this because the science will inform some of those things like Omar has described at the final solution. But it's going to look very, very much like this.
I just thought of, what is the process? I'm assuming we now need to put a proposal together requesting the closure of that street. And what's the timing for that, and what's that process going to be?
So Doug can speak to the timing, but
you can speak to the
I
meeting.
will say, so I will say we've been in continual, consistent conversations with the city to be a good partner in this process from every level. So we're meeting frequently with traffic engineers, with city planners. Just this afternoon, Doug and I were at a meeting with the mayor's deputy chief of staff to get a check-in on the process of this project. Happy to report it went very well. And we anticipate meeting with the mayor himself in a couple of weeks here to further continue these conversations and make sure we're following all the right protocol, because at the end of the day, it is the city and really city council's vote decision. So we have a long permit process. There's both the closure of Boulder, but before that, Adolphson and Peterson and RTA will be submitting permits for temporary closure of Boulder for the construction effort, which would start as early as this summer, actually. And so that's been a lot of what our conversations with the city have been about, is how do we work as partners through this together to get to the right solution. Do you want to talk about the
We
timeline?
had a great meeting with those guys this week with the city to sit down and explain the logistics and how we're gonna build the first phase and closing Boulder temporarily and how we need to have access. So it was a very positive meeting.
It takes about a year. The process takes about a year. Our goal is to submit next month. As Chris said, we're gonna move forward with temporary closure because we need it for construction based on Chris's team's sort of logistics plan. But it'll take a year once we submit to get through that process. When Chris Lieber's been here in the past, he's talked about the public process. There's community meetings that have to go on. There's additional data that, like traffic engineering and other things that we have to submit in order to prove the safety and the validity of closing Boulder, but it's all been very positive. Even this afternoon, a couple hours ago.
But for the phase one, what we are talking about, we really don't need to close Boulder, whether that happens later on or not, other than a temporary closure for construction. It's more for the phase two and the athletic field that we need Boulder to be permanently closed. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions at this time from the board?
Sorry, it's a different topic. I was gonna ask about the best grant for Jenkins, and I forgot
There's a
earlier.
best grant.
In process,
There's a best grant for Palmer also.
Oh, there is?
Yes, there are two best grants that were turned in, one for each project.
Okay.
We won't
And so
find
we're
out
just-
about it
okay.
till later in the summer.
Yeah,
Just-
until July, I don't believe,
Yep.
right?
End of May.
Soon.
Optimistic
End of
Doug.
May or
Soon.
July, one of those?
For both,
Soon.
hopefully.
There's been some changes to some of those granting opportunities due to the challenges at the state budget, so.
So with the construction starting this summer, just a feedback is that we need to keep the parents informed about what school is going to look like for students that come into Palmer, similar to Jenkins, what is happening in August when they come. There's going to be areas that are going to be closed for construction. They are experts, they know how to do. I'm just saying we got to be in front of the conversation. I'm sure you guys are aware of.
So I think the district has certainly proven that we can do that on extremely short notice. We don't ever seek to have to do that on that level of short notice again. So Krista has been working at length with her team already to think about those transition times and spaces, both RTA and Adolphson and Peterson have been in those spaces for those conversations. Those will be challenging times for us because, again, we have filled up a building that houses twice as many kids than it supports right now. So, but I do think that we learned some valuable lessons in the Jenkins transition of how do we make sure that our staff has time outside of their contract time that they are paid for and supported to be able to make those moves. I think we got really good at that at Jenkins. And how do we continue to overflow communications to families in multimodal ways that every parent knows that someday in the very near future, you can't drop off on Weber. Because if you do, you're gonna be meeting Chris and their team over there, which might not be who you wanna see.
So do you feel that because the building already is supposed to support such a larger enrollment that we won't be in need of modulars or anything like that?
We don't think we need modulars right now. We have had, and before I would go to modulars, we've had tremendous amounts of outreach from neighboring blocks. Remember, kids are already kind of navigating downtown with what I would say convertible space that says if you need overflow space, if you need place for the the band to practice on inclement weather, you can make a deal with United Methodist is over there. City Auditorium has reached out and said there could be opportunities. So we feel right now that until we get to the next let's go, we're in a really good position, but we're ready to go.
I took geometry in First United Methodist. Like the school was that fully enrolled when I was there that they had us going over there.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
You've lived it.
It's okay.
So while, just for the community's awareness, while all this construction is starting this summer, all the Palmer students are still going to be located in that building or adjacent buildings. There is not going to be any movement of Palmer students to other parts of our community.
No. Our plan is to be able to accommodate all Palmer students within the building as the phasing comes across. And like I said, any near solutions will be downtown. We do not anticipate having to turn a ninth grade to a different school or limit applications and choicing into Palmer.
Okay.
What is it? It's Krista, it's probably less than 20% of the classrooms and teachers are impacted by the first phase.
What I call part one of phase one, the stuff that's happening this summer, we will be moving 16 teachers out of 72 teachers. So it's not a significant impact this first bit. The part that will be more impactful will be next summer when they do the part library stuff. That will include moving only 4 additional teachers, or maybe it's 6 additional teachers, something like that. But the entire admin staff, there's about 16 of us, that will relocate to cubicles in the current library. But we've already had those conversations, so I don't anticipate really any struggles with that. I think we've met quite a few times. We're meeting again this Friday. So I think we're pretty positive that we can keep it fairly low impact and make plans enough in advance that people have plenty of warning and information to. In fact, I think we're having a dumpster delivered maybe by the end of the week to start, teachers can sometimes be hoarders. And so dumping some of that stuff as we make some of those moves.
And just knowing it's just for a short period of time in the big
Right.
scheme of things.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And a year in front of Air Academy at least. That's our other goal. Always be a year in front of Air Academy.
So this was informational item to the board. You got some board feedback. Is there any other directive or direction you need from the board at this time?
Brandon, doing anything? Are we asking for a, okay.
Okay, thank you. We look forward to the community engagement that takes place later in April, and then for the groundbreaking to take place in May. I do see Ms. Go
I have
ahead.
a question.
Go ahead, Omar.
I can't see your faces very well, but people excited? Are you thoroughly excited?
Omar, I spent a lot of time in this room, and this is the most amount of smiles I've ever seen around the table at one time.
It is
Fabulous.
exciting. It looks great. Your renderings look amazing.
To include our most recent Palmer graduate, Director Nelson, who's our treasurer.
You know what? What I would add to that is that page where you talked about on budget, on time, or whatever, on schedule, on budget, and you come right down to the $765. So my excitement is going to be if you can stay within that budget. And come back later on and say you need $5 million or $10 million. So,
Very good.
so thank you so much. And I see Gabriela out there. You haven't had an opportunity to speak. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I'm really grateful to be a part of this. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. And Krista, I've got plans coming out for you here later this afternoon, so later this evening. End of day is midnight for me. Get it sent your way.
Sounds great.
Okay, thank you. Any closing thoughts?
Awesome. Go Terrors.
Okay.
For the next 100 years.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
With that, thank you all for joining either remotely or out here. Appreciate the work that you
Thank
are
you.
doing.
Good night.
Good night. Yeah. And that's the end of the work session. We don't have anything else. So thank you. We are adjourned at 7:30 p.m.